first guest is here today. That is Alun Curtis, Swansea legend, they call him. Do you like that title?
I love it. Why not?
Let's talk about this week then. So retirement as Swansea coach, that's something you've been contemplating for a while?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, trying to explain to people that I knew when it was time for me to sort of finish my playing career. And I think that there was a sort of a dawning, a realisation that I was coming to the end of my coaching career. It's hard to explain, but I think you just know when it's time. So yeah, I've been thinking about it for a while, and then it just seemed to be, it all seemed to sort of fall into place a little bit, announce it. In my 65th birthday as well, sort of just a couple of weeks ago. That was a good time, I felt, to say that my time was coming to an end. And to be fair, the reaction, I've been amazed really, and pleasantly surprised at.
Ordinary president of the club as well?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I take over. I'm not exactly sure what it entails, but to become honorary president, we've had a couple of Professor David Farmer, people who would know the club, Professor David Farmer, William Joseph, the past presidents. So the big shoes to sort of step into, but it's basically, I think, it's going to games, obviously, go to the home games. You do the hospitality lounges and you do the couple of the boxes as well. I think we've got like a Swans TV, where they sort of cover the away games. So I'll be sort of doing a couple of commentaries from there. As and when the club sort of can call upon you, then they will do so. So it's nice to keep the involvement as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And what a night it was now, the Swansea Derby game on Wednesday, where you actually had the big walkout and everything in front of all the crowd and the spectators. Yeah,
it was lovely. I got to say, it's one of those things that you try not to get too emotional about it, because it's nothing worse than to see a grown man cry. But it was sort of emotional, and it was, again, I'd been told the day before. I wasn't sure if I was going to look forward to it or not, because I suppose there's a bit of a finality about it as well. But no, it was really lovely, and obviously the family there as well to watch it. Probably got more emotional watching the little videos, and sort of on the iPad looking at the people.
What a feeling walking out in front of all that, yeah.
Yeah, it was terrific, and Derby County were good enough as well to form a guard of honour.
Lovely
Frank
stuff.
Lampard, funny, I can remember Frank as a youngster coming down to us, many years ago as a 17, 18-year-old. I think he played 11 games. Obviously, he had no idea he was going to make the impact that he did, even though you knew he was going to be some sort of player. So it was nice as well that, that both teams sort of lining up, and it's a nice gesture. And as I say, the crowd, I've always had a good relationship with the crowd.
Of course,
and it was really something to treasure.
So, I mean, I did ask you this. There was a big sort of rumour that you were going to be made redundant, but you said that redundancy was open to anybody at the Swans at the time.
Yeah. I mean, the club, I think, we go through a period which we've done quite a few times over my time at the club, where, they issued redundancy letters to everybody, and the only ones to not have them was Graham, obviously the manager, and all the players. But literally every member of staff, could be the most junior if you've only been there for a couple of months, to some of the more senior people of the club. I think it's a law of the land that once you issue redundancy letters, then they have to go to everybody. But they offered voluntary to start with, hoping that people may sort of take it. And I was in a position where that say on my 65th birthday is a good time for me, but the retirement was probably more in my case, it was more the retirement than the actual redundancy itself.
So let's look at the season then. How do you think they've done? What's your reflection on that now?
I think ultimately we're a little bit disappointed. Because we sort of we missed out literally right at the very end. But when you look back realistically, I mean, we lost 16 players last summer. That was a huge chunk of that was all the experienced players as well. We lost 3, almost 5 in the January transfer window without bringing anybody in. And we only brought last summer, I think we only brought about 4 or 5 in. So it was always going to be a sort of transitional period. But the youngsters, to be fair, who've almost had to be called up into the first team, the likes of Conor Roberts, Joe Roden, Matty Grimes, Ollie McBurney, and of course Dan James, they've come into the team, they've gradually introduced, but they've been nothing short of sensational, to be fair. They've been outstanding, and I think certainly since Christmas time they got better and better. And we talked about this Swansea way, where it's a style of play that I think over the years we've teams associate us with trying to pass the ball and play good football, and I think we've got that back now, and that's testimony to Graham's coaching skills and to the ability of the younger players. I like to the mix of like people like Wyn Thomas and Nathan Dyer coming into the team, and just to give us that little bit of experience as well.
You talk about Graham, but you've been in that position as well as temporary manager of the Swans a couple of times, isn't it? Big responsibility to be a manager of that club?
I think especially in the Premier League, because the stakes are so high. I mean, it's we're talking about hundreds of millions of pounds. So yeah, you know that there is a responsibility. I mean, it's, for all, as much as we enjoyed the Championship, it would be lovely to go back into the Premier League. I know people say that they're enjoying it, but then again, almost in the next breath, we can get into the playoffs, and then we can go back up. So it's what we're all striving for, to get back into the Premier League. But I think we're not probably quite ready at the moment, as the results will show, and our league position will show at the end of the season. We weren't quite ready for it, but if you can keep this team together, there's no reason why we can't push on again next year.
Let's go back a little bit into your life. And Uncle Roy Paul was a Man City and Wales captain for an FA Cup final team. Have you got memories of him?
Yes, funny enough, I unveiled a plaque last Friday back home up the Rhondda in Gelli, in Smith Street in Gelli, which is the family home, and it's a 2-bedroom terraced house. Uncle Roy Paul, was my mother's brother, my grandparents, and then 14 children. There was, I think it was 6 boys and 8 girls.
In a 2-bedroom house?
Two-bedroom house. So, how they managed, I'll never know. But he's always been an influence on my career. I mean, he played in 2 cup finals, captain Man City in 2 cup finals, 55, 50, lost in 55. And he made a plea to the supporters, in the banquet after, that they would return next year and win it. And to be fair, he was true to his word. They beat Birmingham 3-1. It was famous final where Bert Troutman was a goalkeeper. Man.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Broke his neck and played on, so bred him tough in those days. So he was always an influence. But strangely, and I didn't mention it in the little speech that I made, I can remember coming home from school, being brought up in the Rhondda, and school was literally the top of the street, and coming home, and they used to deliver coal in those days, and the coals would be sort of, each individual house would have a big barrel full of coal
on the road.
On the road, and then you carry it through the house. And I remember coming home from school, and that coal was being delivered by a couple of men on the street, and Alan, across the road, and I'm looking, and all I could see this fella sort of covered in coal dust, and Alan. And excuse me, he said, "It's me." He said, "Your Uncle Roy, you silly bugger." And he was covered in head to toe. And this must have only been, I guess, about 6 or 7 years.
Was he a big man?
He would probably be in about my stamp, I would say.
Okay.
I mean, probably about 5'10". I think in later life, you do sort of, you shrink a little bit.
Why I ask you is, I've seen photos of him, but this photo's always, I think the photo I saw was taken from like that, looking up to his face. So he looked quite big, with a sort of big chest.
He had a great build. I mean, he was sort of, due to the war, he was like a PE instructor. So he always was, incredibly fit. And obviously sort of, delivering coal would have probably hardened him. He did work underground for a little while, but fortunately for him and for football, that he managed to escape the mines and make a fantastic living out of the game. But I just can't imagine now, it'd be impossible to imagine the sort of Premier League footballers, never mind delivering coal, but they would have to go out and work for a living or haven't had a career in the game.
Oh yes, good. This is me, yes, yeah. Early training days at the Swans when you first went there. The run to the Mumbles, do you remember that? Yeah.
Training was quite basic.
And lots of cheating going on, yeah.
It was, yeah. We ran from the veg, literally. We'd all go up sort of fairly organised.
This is when you were about 17, isn't it? 18?
17, 18, yeah. We'd all run up to the Apple, which is still there to this day, but you had to touch it, physically touch it, and then you'd be sort of ticked. And then in the end, it was right on the way home, right, everybody just go for it, and get back as quickly as you possibly can. But of course, some of the older players would jump on milk floats, furniture vans, whatever was going on. And they tend to get dropped off by St Helens and then sprinted. So it looked as if they must have been world record times. I mean, I don't know what the distance is.
That's a brilliant story. Yeah. And then let's talk about the first season in Division 1 and that famous goal against Leeds. Yeah. That is still something that's still in the memory, isn't it?
Yeah, but it kept cropping up as well, especially that since I announced the retirement. And I mean, for me, it was always special. The fact that it was our first game ever in the top flight. The fact it was against Leeds, who had left sort of a couple of months prior to that.
Right, yeah.
And but more so, I think the fact that when you think of all the great teams that have played and great players that have played for the Swans, that we'd never actually managed to get into that top flight. With the likes of Ivor Allchurch, Terry Medwin, Cliffy Jones, Mel Charles. Some absolutely wonderful players. Roy Paul, Trevor Ford, incredible players.
Brilliant players, yeah.
And never made it. So we knew it was going to be like a special occasion. But then to score that goal as well, sort of rounded off a fantastic. The fact that we won 5-1 as well, and the momentum, I think, and the belief that we had from that game, just sort of carried us through there. That was probably the closest to actually winning the league.
You actually topped the league, didn't you?
We topped the table, I think, with about 10 games to go. I think we topped it about 3 times during that season.
That's right. Well, the second season was a bit different, wasn't it? A bit more difficult, perhaps, was it?
Well,
and Toshak wasn't sort of really in the same sort of mind as he used to be.
No, I think probably we suffered. John Mahoney was a regular, Colin Irwin. They both suffered knee injuries that finished their career. And we just suffered too many injuries. I think as well, not like these days with the Premier League, it's a wash with money. I don't think we had the finances really I think we overspent. Club to get into the first division was brilliant, but I mean, I think we almost spent the next 20 years sort of paying for it. We slipped into administration. We dropped all the way back down to League Two, almost went out of the league. Yeah, so the second season, for any amount of reasons, certainly the financial side of it, the injury side of it, and maybe teams, that sort of second season syndrome as well. I mean, it's always tougher the second year.
But John Toshak has said in his book that he was actually considering the Liverpool job at the time.
Yeah, we thought that it was his job nailed on.
Who would have been the manager there? Would it have been Paisley?
I think it was Bob Paisley. I think that he had said that he was looking to retire at the end of the year.
But he didn't go.
Well, he changed his mind right at the end. And I think that, we all, probably quite rightly at the time, with all the vibes coming from both camps, that he was going to take over. And I know the book, that the chapter, when he says he probably sort of took his eye off the ball, so to speak. But it would be wrong to sort of blame John for it. I mean, we all sort of we all have to take the blame. But I certainly think that if we certainly didn't have the squad to sort of carry the amount of injury we did have. And it was all of a sudden then it became like a bit of a sad decline, unfortunately.
So you played for Leeds and you played for Southampton. What is that like? Do you enjoy your time there?
I did. I mean, it was one of those things when I left the Swans to play for Leeds. I mean, Leeds then were probably, they were certainly like nowadays it would be one of the top 4 clubs. I think they were runners up the season before, so they were a big club. And it was one of those things. It was just an opportunity that you couldn't turn down. We were in the Championship, or League 2 as it was then, Division 2, sorry. So yeah, it was just too good an opportunity to miss. It's a massive club, still is a massive club, even though they're playing in the Championship now. But unfortunately, things went well up until Christmas, and then. Or the New Year, and then we played the FA Cup third round. We played Nottingham Forest at Elland Road, and then I injured my knee quite badly, and I was out then for about 9 months, 10 months, and that effectively sort of killed my time there really, because there was a change of management. Jimmy Adamson had been the manager who signed me. Alan Clark had taken over, and he really wanted to sort of get him out and start again. And I was one of those, but fortunately, the injury took a while, say 9 or 10 months to get over it. But when I got fit, started playing again, then there was a chance to re-sign for the Swans. So it was a chance to rebuild your career, and obviously that we were just on that rise from the second to the first. So it was a good time. It was a great time to join the club, and I'm so thankful that I was there when we did get promotion from the second to the old first.
Yeah. So many managers at Swans, Alan. Which one sort of stands out in your mind?
I would think from a playing point of view, I mean, Toshak was certainly the best manager that I ever worked under. Lots of terrific managers, but I think because it was the period that I enjoyed the most, that rise from the fourth to the first was brilliant. And John obviously was very instrumental. We had Harry Griffiths, to be fair, who started the process, but Tosh took it on, and they were the best times of my sort of playing career was obviously spent at the Swans, and under John. So for me, he was always the best. I would say he's probably the best manager the club has ever had.
Wonderful. Well, Alan, thanks so much for sparing time to come to see us. Good luck in your retirement, whatever you plan to do, as well as being the president of the Swans.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for being my first guest.